NRATV with Grant Stinchfield.
Hi there and welcome to the program. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Senate Democrats who oppose Judge Neil Gorsuch for the Supreme Court better look out when it comes time for re-election, especially those Democrats, at least 10 to 12 of them, that represent swing or moderate states. Gun owners have proven that we have the power, the likes never seen before in America, with our unified voice being led by the NRA. Chris Cox, the executive director of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action, sent a letter to Senate leaders. It reads, quote, "The NRA has every confidence that Judge Gorsuch will protect Second Amendment rights of law-abiding gun owners and will faithfully apply the Constitution in cases that come before him. He has our strongest support for confirmation," Cox added, "because of the importance of this issue to NRA members and gun owners throughout the country. Votes on his confirmation will be considered in future candidate evaluations, and we will notify members accordingly." The NRA also kept track of those who voted against Attorney General Jeff Sessions. This legislative scorecard, make no mistake about it, is of the utmost importance to anyone who represents gun-pro states, Republican or Democrat. The fight for campus carry is taking off across the country. The states that allow campus carry are growing, like Texas and Tennessee, but other states offer variations of campus carry laws, but come with such confusing and restrictive policies that anti-gun lawmakers hope it will discourage faculty, staff, and students, hoping they'll give up the fight and just resort to not protecting themselves at all. Well, Kansas State Representative Blake Carpenter has entered the fight for gun rights on campuses. Under his bill, Kansas universities and the State Board of Regents would not be able to enforce rules or regulations put in place about how people carry or store their concealed handguns on campus. Kansas Representative Blake Carpenter is here with us to talk about this. Representative, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So we have seen here in Texas that university leaders will play some gimmicks and tricks to stop some of these campus carry laws from going through. I take it your bill aims to stop that in Kansas. Tell me about it.
Yeah, right now there's been a 4-year process. Kansas passed a law 4 years ago before my time in the legislature, and it basically allowed these universities to implement adequate security measures. So if they are going to disarm anybody, then they can guarantee citizens that nobody has a firearm going into that facility. And so, but now what they're trying to do is, this goes into effect on July 1st. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to regulate through policy so that individuals are discouraged from carrying, or that if you have a round in your chamber, then you can't carry, or you get in trouble. And then there's other policies that I've heard about, but they didn't actually implement. One of the other policies was you can't have ammunition. Okay, well, I'll just take my gun out of my holster and throw it at them. You know, so the thing is that they're trying to implement these policies, but we're trying to make sure that everybody's universal, all the policies are the same. And this, I think, provides stability for gun rights advocates and owners who are carrying on these campuses.
You know, it's so important. We've seen in Ohio where they passed campus carry. Ohio actually left it up to school administrators of whether or not to allow campus carry. And so guess what happened? Schools in Ohio, not one of them now has campus carry there, even though the law has been passed.
Exactly, and they try pushing for that here as well, but we're not backing down because we know exactly what's going to happen, and exactly what happened in Ohio is going to happen here in Kansas. If we give them the ability to restrict gun rights, then they will do so.
You know, I know they will use tricks about where you can store your firearms. And in essence, if they say, well, you can't store your firearms in your dorm room, or you can't carry them into a teacher's office or a professor's office, you've all but taken away the right to keep that firearm on campus.
Yeah, and actually what they're starting to do is, well, if you're gonna put it in some place, then it has to be a key operated safety box. It can't be a keypad. It can't be any other biometric or anything like that. And so they're starting to get down into, you have to use a key. And so they're getting so specific that it's like, well, what if I have a biometric lock in my car and I want to put it in there, and oh well, that would be against the policy. So
here we go again. What is the response now from your fellow lawmakers in Kansas? How does it look for the prospects of this bill?
Well, right now that is sitting in committee, and we had a hearing on it, but We'll see if it makes it through the committee process. But the upside is that there's other pro-gun pieces of legislation that are sitting what we call below the line right now on the House floor, ready for debate. And if this gun legislation comes up, then I'm allowed to amend this portion of it into that gun bill to make sure that everybody's rights are protected. And the unfortunate thing about this is that I have the ability to bring pro-Second Amendment legislation or amendments onto these gun bills, but the opposite is true for the other side. They can bring their anti-Second Amendment legislation and try to remove people's gun rights. And so it's going to be a battle that we need to have on the floor so people know where their representatives are.
So, Representative, tell me, how does it shape up in the House and Senate in Kansas as far as pro-gun lawmakers versus anti-freedom, anti-gun lawmakers?
I would say it's pretty scary right now, to be totally honest. After the last election cycle, there's a lot of individuals who, unlike their predecessors, are not pro-Second Amendment or as much as they should be. And so I think what we need to do is we need to have people on the record. We need to have people know where their representatives or senators are. And I think that right now we are in a good situation to figure all this out and to make sure that no anti-Second Amendment legislation passes, because I believe that we have a pro-Second Amendment governor who would veto these kind of anti-Second Amendment items, and then I don't think that they could get the 2/3 majority that they need to override those vetoes.
So, and I want to make it clear, this is not just Democrats in the House that are pushing back, that there are some Republicans that are pushing back against this as well, aren't there?
Yes, there are. You can call them rhinos, liberals, what have you, but they masquerade as Republicans, but aren't necessarily Republicans all the time.
All right. Well, Representative, it's great to have you on the program. Representative Blake Carpenter, you keep up the fight up there in Kansas. Thank you for talking to us today.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You got it. So this is what's going on across the country in Kansas and other states. The anti-gun left brings up opposite legislation that pro-gun representatives will bring up, and then the battle ensues. And so this is why you've got to keep your eye not just on Washington, but on a local level, all the way down to your cities and towns, really, as we try to fight for legislation to be pushed through. Look, Chuck Holton will be reporting for us from Guam at the top of the next hour. That's right, Guam. And we're going to talk about our World War II vets who are sadly disappearing at record numbers. I'm Grant Stinchfield for NRATV.
You're watching NRATV with Grant Stinchfield.